And the DCU from James Gunn is moving full steam ahead. Guys, recently James Gunn did some interviews and dropped a ton of news. He talked about Darkseid, Mr. Miracle, the Arkham Asylum series, Lanterns, and a bunch of other productions. But hold on, there's more. We also got info on the Supergirl movie, Clayface, and the possible hint involving Batman in the DCU in the movie Brave and the Bold. All this and more is coming straight at you in this video, so let's dive in. Not long ago, James Gunn sat down for a long chat with several popular YouTubers in the US, including channels like New Rockstars and Bobatux. Among the many topics Gunn chatted about, there's some super interesting points regarding the future of the DCU. Right off the bat, I'm going to highlight that James Gunn confirmed Darkseid isn't the main villain of this chapter, Gods and Monsters. This question popped up because of Salvation, the planet that showed up at the end of Peacemaker. In the comics, this planet is used as a training ground for Darkseid's army. The planet appears in the comic Salvation run, and some folks were speculating that it could be a hook to introduce Darkseid, who's definitely the most recognized villain of the Justice League. But guess what? Gunn himself said that's not the case. Yep, this news probably felt like a cold shower for some people, but he explained why he made that choice. He mentioned Darkseid's appearance in Snyder Cut and gave it some props, saying he's cool, but since he was used recently, Gunn thinks it wouldn't be a great idea to have him as a villain in this first chapter. Plus, he also pointed out that Darkseid is pretty similar to Thanos, and if he were introduced right now, it might look like DC is copying Marvel. With that explanation, it's easy to understand where Gunn's coming from, right? Sure, Thanos looks similar to Darkseid, but since Marvel showed Thanos first in the movies, it could give off the vibe that DC is just riding Marvel's coattails. It's important to note that Gunn didn't say Darkseid won't show up, just that he won't be the villain in this first phase. This is crucial because it leaves the door open for Darkseid and the exploration of Apocalypse with New Genesis in the future. We might even see a project diving into the fourth world, exploring the dynamics between the two planets, and all those amazing characters Jack Kirby created.
Sure, we'll have some of this in the Mr. Miracle animated series, but so far there hasn't been confirmation that the animation will be in the DCU, or if it's going to be something Elseworld, thanks to some story elements that raced out. James Gunn commented on the new gods and how he finds them fascinating. One thing that stands out is that they're going to introduce Mr. Miracle, and this is where things get a little fuzzy. Of course, I want Mr. Miracle to be canon in the DCU, and if that's the case, the hype for the animation will be even bigger. But honestly, Gunn's words left me a bit unsure about whether it'll really be in the DCU or not. If the DCU takes off and lasts for a while, Darkseid could easily become a phase villain, with a long-term story arc that shows his origin and Apocalypse along with the dilemmas he faces. This could make his introduction way more impactful. In that case, I'm on board with what James Gunn said. I just hope everything works out so we can watch it all unfold. Moving on to the next piece of news, Gunn talked about the Arkham Asylum series. He confirmed that the series is no longer in development. This idea had its highs and lows going back and forth in discussions. The initial idea was solid, to show what goes down inside the asylum with the inmates interacting while introducing various Batman villains. Let's be honest, an Arkham Asylum show is a fantastic concept, whether it's DCU or the Batman, but it's been a while since we've had any updates on the project. Initially, it was supposed to be set in the Batman universe, just like the GCPD series, which Matt Reeves already canceled. Then Gunn announced it'd take place in the DCU, but since then, not a peep. I honestly wish this area were part of Matt Reeves' universe, but after The Penguin came out, you can see that the Arkham Asylum series idea was kind of folded into episode 4 of The Penguin, where we saw Sophia Falcone crying to survive as a patient in Arkham. An excellent episode, if not the best, and we even have a review of it on the channel. I'll drop it in the card for you to check out. Now let's talk about the Lantern series. Filming wrapped a while ago, and so far we haven't seen any promo material other than that one photo of Hal Jordan with Jon Stewart where you can barely make out Hal's ring. Beyond that, it's been completely silent. Since Lanterns is the next DCU production set to premiere, a lot of fans are worried. James Gunn confirmed that there's a teaser ready. He's seen it, but since it's an HBO series, all the marketing is up to HBO. He doesn't know exactly when it'll roll out, so we'll just have to wait.
Yeah guys, the timeline for launching a series is pretty different from that of a movie, so we'll need to hang tight and hope this show turns out to be really good. Now, onto another topic. Believe it or not, James Gunn talked about Constantine 2 with Keanu Reeves. Yep, the idea for Constantine 2 with Keanu Reeves is still alive and kicking. Gunn confirmed he's chatted with Keanu, but hasn't seen any script yet. This means he's open to getting a script for Constantine 2, but whether it'll get approved or not, that's another story. Honestly, I don't know about you, but at this point, I'd much rather have a Constantine that's more faithful to the comics and fits into the DCU. I think that's a better approach. After all, he's an important character for DC. Even if it were Elseworlds, I'd prefer it to be for a bigger character. That's just my opinion. Feel free to disagree in the comments. Next up, let's switch gears to what James Gunn said about promoting films and series at events, like at a Comic-Con. He was super straightforward and explained that it all depends on the project. When there's an epic trailer, he feels it's worth shelling out some cash for a convention to promote it. But in other cases, he prefers using social media because it's way cheaper. One example he shared was promoting the script cover for Man of Tomorrow, which got quite a bit of media crash. Let's be real, just think of the cash it would take to announce everything Gunn puts out on social media. Plus, he mentioned his time constraints since he lives in Georgia. If he has to hit up a Comic-Con, he needs to catch a flight and block out a week for it. He believes that's not really worth it because he could be working on the Man of Tomorrow script instead. Honestly, regarding this, I feel two things. First, that Warner is really keeping an eye on how much they're spending on productions. This is nothing new, but there were times in the past when Warner dropped over $100 million just on marketing. It's definitely a tricky situation. It's exciting to have a bunch of reveals during a panel at a Comic-Con, but there is also the downside that often those panels are only for the people who are at the event, while when they announce on social media, it reaches an audience all around the world. So I get that view, but I still hope he can join events sometimes and strike a balance between big announcements at events and promotions on social media. Another thought I have from Gunn's comments is that he might be feeling a bit overwhelmed. He talked about how chaotic it was filming Superman and Peacemaker simultaneously, and now that the focus is on Land of Tomorrow, I think he'll stick with that project for a while and oversee the other projects to keep everything alive. Now, talking about Man of Tomorrow, James Gunn is pushing forward with pre-production for the film. Recently, he gave an update saying he finished the 4th draft, and he also showed off the storyboards. Now, of course, this doesn't mean the script is totally done and ready to shoot, but it's a good sign that things are moving in the right direction. Reports suggest Man of Tomorrow could start filming in April 2026. That's because the union representing most crew members in Georgia recently sent out a job listing for a film titled Exodus, which begins in April for Warner Bros., who owns the Superman franchise. If everything gets confirmed, we're looking at about 6 months left until filming rolls, and with 6 months, you've got a good chunk of time to polish off that script. An interesting detail is that DC Studios used the pseudonym Genesis for the first Superman film while filming in the Atlanta metro area last year. It looks that James Gunn might be using the Old Testament for inspiration yet again in his Superman movies. Of course, this isn't confirmed info, but it makes sense. Genesis fits the first Superman film since we're kicking off a new universe of films in DC. But what about Man of Tomorrow? Well, Exodus could connect to the fact that Man of Tomorrow will explore the planet Salvation, which appeared in Peacemaker, using the Salvation comics as a base. So in this instance, it all seems to align. Let's remember, this film will drop before The Batman Part 2. That's will premiere in October 2026. Man of Tomorrow is slated for July 9th, 2027. So it's crucial to speed things up to ensure everything's ready before filming starts, because there's gonna be a whole year of post-production which involves a lot of work with visual effects. Superman films always come with a hefty price tag for effects, and if it doesn't come out right, the audience is quick to voice their opinions. Even if the first film had great effect, there was still a scene or two where the CGI didn't look too hot. In the middle of this, I really hope this pressure to rush the project, along with Gunn's other responsibilities at DC Studios, doesn't negatively impact production. I really hope everything turns out well for this film. Now on to recent info and rumors about the Supergirl movie. We've got some key details. The info comes from insider Daniel RPK, who's pretty well known in the nerd community for leaking superhero movie details. He's had some good hits with Spider-Man films, but has missed a few times as well. Well, he mentioned that the Supergirl film will undergo a 2-week reshoot, which would involve Superman. And it's crucial to know, when discussing rumors, we need to tread carefully, because that doesn't guarantee it's true. We gotta be careful not to get too hyped thinking everything will unfold as mentioned. Many sources are credible, but caution should always be kept. One detail that catches attention is that recently during exhibitions at Warner, where the Superman suit worn by David Corns was displayed, the suit isn't available anymore because it's being used for production. So what does that mean? It could mean that the suit is being utilized for the Supergirl movie, which totally makes sense. It's more logical that the suit is currently being used in the Supergirl production to include scenes with David Cornswick's Superman, rather than it being for Man of Tomorrow, which hasn't started filming yet. So it's not too far-fetched to think that this rumor could be true, and that Daniel RPK isn't just spinning his heels or getting wrong info. Plus, you don't need to change much on the suit for the next movie, it's just about having David Cornswick act alongside Supergirl. Then who knows, maybe in Man of Tomorrow, Superman could have a new suit with some minor tweaks. That's not a guarantee, but it is a possibility.
I think it's pretty likely we'll see these reshoots happening soon. 2 weeks is a quick timeline for reshoots, and that period isn't lengthy. And remember, reshoots aren't always a bad thing. The nature of the reshoot matters. If you're doing reshoots to significantly change the movie story, that's when we're looking at a serious issue, and that's something that's happened several times with DC films. But as of now, that hasn't been an issue at DC Studios. Now shifting back to another topic, this time involving Batman and the DCU, there's something interesting about Clayface. Recently, James Gunn posted on his social media about the Clayface character and his film. He congratulated the character on the anniversary of his first appearance and included the cover of the second Clayface, which marks Matt Hagen's first appearance, the second Clayface. Just a reminder, the first Clayface is Basil Karlo, who popped up back in the 40s. This post seemed like a hint that Batman might somehow be involved in the Clayface film, perhaps making an appearance, but I wouldn't say Batman's appearance in DCU's Clayface as 100% confirmed just because of Gunn's posts. Sure, there's always a chance we could be surprised, but we should look at Gunn's usual style. He tends to be careful with cameos from other characters. He has said before that he doesn't like to do what he calls cameo porn, because cameos need to be meaningful and tied to the story being told. So my advice is to keep expectations in check. If Batman shows up, awesome. But if we get hyped over something that wasn't promised and then they're disappointed, it'll just be on us. Plus, let's be real, fans have been given a lot of weight to cameos in superhero movies, especially because of what Marvel has done in the MCU. But there have been examples of films that included cameos that didn't really fit and even disrespected the characters making the brief appearances. So if Batman does show up, that'd be a neat bonus, but let's keep those expectations low. And don't you dare leave the video yet, because there's more. If you're eager to see Batman in the DCU, hang tight, because we might actually have a clue about that in Clayface. Recently, the series It, Welcome to Derry premiered. Developed by Andy Muschietti and Barbara Muschietti, who are still tied to the movie Brave and the Bold, which will introduce Batman into DCU. Now check this out. The cover of the comic that James Gunn posted congratulating Clayface appeared in the first episode of the series Ed. Not only did the cover with Batman confronting Clayface appear, but also a cover featuring the comic Flash of Two Worlds, that classic image of Flash from Earth 1 and Earth 2 saving someone as a nod to the Flash movie that Andy Muschietti directed. The fact that James posted this image on the same day as the episode's release might not just be a coincidence. Who knows? Maybe Andy Muschietti and James Gunn are working together on the Batman introduction in the DCU. Of course, it could all just be an Easter egg, but I'm not sure they'd go to such lengths without there being some truth behind it.
Both Barbara and Andy Muschietti have hinted that we can expect important news about Batman in the DCU in the coming months. James Gunn is also starting to position himself, so something's on the way. I know some fans are worried about Andy Muschietti directing Brave and the Bold because of the Flash movie and his remarks defending the criticism that film received. But let's be real, Andy Muschietti is a solid director and the Batman scenes he directed were good, both for Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton. I just hope DC Studios, especially James Gunn, keeps an eye on things and maybe discusses CGI elements with Muschietti. Guys, Batman Brave and the Bold can't afford to mess up, and I believe Muschietti can deliver a strong film. The script just needs to be good, and so far we don't know who the writer is, plus the CGI shouldn't be at the level of The Flash. That just won't fly. Back to Clayface, another question folks might have is, does this mean Clayface could be the villain of Brave and the Bold? I don't think that's a route they're going to take. This feels more like an Easter egg for the future of the Brave and the Bold production. That's why I say and repeat, it's crucial to manage our expectations. But despite what I just mentioned, what do you think? Could this really be a clue that Batman will appear in the Clayface movie, or that Clayface will be in the Batman film? Do you think Andy Muschietti will be producing and directing Brave and the Bold? Let me know in the comments. Guys, contrary to the fake news that keeps saying the DCU is done and that James Gunn is getting fired, the truth is that the DC studio schedule is moving forward strong, and next year we'll see new productions rolling out. We'll cover all the updates to keep you informed, and to make sure you're not missing out, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell. Plus, check out our new hype button, now available on the channel. Give it a click if it's there for you. This is how you can support us and stay up to date with everything happening in the DC universe. Thanks a ton, and if you haven't caught up on what's going on in the comics lately, take care on this playlist to learn all about it.